Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us Coach Carroll, and we are going to ask him a few questions on domestic violence. So, Coach, what are your thoughts on domestic violence?
It's something that's been going on since the beginning of time, through all cultures, through all races. It transcends everything. It has to do with any physical stature. It's a mental entanglement. It's a mental war that usually typically gets overlooked because of the physicality of it. So therefore, it's really tricky because you wouldn't believe how many people out here who are really trapped. And on the outside, unless it's extensively obvious, you never would know because, like I said, it's more of a mental entrapment than anything.
Why do you think women stay in domestic violent relationships?
Money, power of the man. Man controls everything. And then when you have kids, that really makes it because our nature is that we are supposed to sacrifice for the good of our children. And so we throw ourselves to the side and we continue to be the abuse trash can and just let everything be thrown in our can. So we're supposed to take it for the love of our children. And really that's a really tragic thing because you want to your children are the most important thing. But like I said, also women live in a nice plush situation, got everything. They haven't paid for anything, so they feel like if they don't cooperate, they will be thrown out here and they will have nothing.
In your opinion, why do men who are abusive abuse the women they claim they love?
It has probably something to do with what they grew up with, what they were taught, um, the tree that their apple fell off of. It could be generational. They saw their father abuse their mother, and their father saw their father abuse their mother, and it's just also it becomes kind of like a almost a tradition. It's almost you think sometimes you think this is genetic, but also the way that they are programmed and grow up and the way they treat from the time they first exchange in action with girls. And I always look at stuff like when I was growing up, I'd see guys. Why would you want to fight with girls? Why would you want to engage in little petty stuff, titty pit pit for pit for pat things like that? I just don't um, I don't see that. But I was blessed that I never have witnessed firsthand any domestic violence in my family. I never grew up around any of that.
Wow, it's interesting because most families you at least experience it at least once, if it's cousins or uncles or
I've never seen
grandparents.
anybody in my immediate family, in my cousins, and my uncles, nobody. So I have been blessed. My grandparents.
That is great. What do you think a woman could do to express herself to her mate to show him that he's hurting her by the way he's mistreating her without getting him angry?
That's tough because men have such a sensitive ego. We are so outwardly reactive. Women are more introvertly um, active, reactive. Men were all about dominance physically. We're all about standing over things. And when we feel like we're not in control, sometimes we don't know how to control the disappointment, the anger, the rage. And it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and pretty much it's out of control. And then the woman submits herself because she's being physically handled or threatened, or she feels like she's a hostage. And I just think that men are their ego does not want to let them admit that because I'm the man of the house. I'm always right. I pay the bills. I do this or that. I'm never I'm always right, and that's not the case.
You say men. Is all men like that?
No, I think men who want to dominate something because they already have something in them that they feel less than, uh, and want to be in so much control because when they step out of that area, they're not really in control because they're really not in control of themselves because they fear they have a fear inside themselves that they're going to lose or that they are inferior. So therefore, they use all this rage and all this physicality to uh, try to cloak that, to try to cover that up, and it's it can get really really ugly, and I don't like to see. I tell people, no matter how much whatever the situation is, a man should never strike a woman physically like that. It's not, I hate when I hear about things. Um, so it's one thing I don't like. I don't even like to even watch TV shows where I see stuff like that. Some of these reality shows where women and men are engaged in arguing and debating. They're setting themselves up to me because that could lead to, because then you're on stage. Well, once they get behind closed doors, everything has been kind of drawn up already. So
Yeah, I agree. And it also painting a bad image to anyone who watches that and they don't have a strong mind or a strong willpower to know that that's not the right way to be
exactly.
treated. You also mentioned something about fear. I have this thing that's saying that whatever you're fearing, you end up having to face it anyway. So, what are your thoughts about a man having to fear he's going to lose the woman that he's abusing, but yet he still abused her anyway?
Well, that really has to do with that's a inside inner guilt mechanism, and also that they don't want to admit that they're wrong. Because to me, for them to admit that they're wrong, men are so victory orientated, and have to dominate, win at all cost. Um, but I feel like for men, we need to understand that we have to think more about how does the woman really feel. What could I do to make her feel completely secure in every form of fashion? And that while we do have disagreements, that we never let it get to a level of animal like or such a rage that you lose train of thought of all your rationale, the ability to cognitively think about things. When God made us, that's what makes humans the most unique creature on the planet. Our ability to think and rationale and make choices. There's no other creature on the planet like that. But we also, what makes us in that we know how to manipulate the moments. We can plot, we can think ahead, we can reverse it, we can stop in the middle of it, we can put a different spin on it, we can play with a person, and that's another thing. When a person, it has you have the ability to literally have somebody's mind or their state in palm of your hands. You can take it, you can mold it like clay, you can shape it any kind of way you want it, and you don't like it, you can take it, you can smash it back up, and I think that's how women are so vulnerable. They want to be so pleasing to the man because they feel like common thing that happens is they're made to think, oh, I'm not that good looking. No other man's gonna want me. I'm no good. I can only do this and that. I'm only good for this and that. And the man takes that and goes, you know what? You're not good for me. No other man will want you out here. Boom, 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 and that just more pounding back into that clay. You know.
Do you think it's the woman that put out the energy for him to say those things, or is that something that he sparks in her to see how far he can get with her?
Well, like anything else, you give a person an inch, they take a foot. You give a person a foot, they take some yards. You give a person yards, they take a mile, and it just keeps going. The first time you cross, you know, if a person who's of a manipulative fashion, of a negative, domineering fashion, feels like, well, I got away with this. It's just something as simple as if you said you were going to be home at 10, you got home at 10:05, and nothing is said or relegated about that or spoken about other than, well, huh, pretty soon, okay, I got away with 10:05. I'm gonna get away with 10:15. Then pretty soon, get away with 10:30. I know that sounds like a corny situation, but that's how things build up because as the period goes on, it just gets like this, wider and wider, 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 wider.
That leads me to my next question. What is abuse to you? Do you think that abuse is only physical?
No, I think more importantly, because on the outside, our bodies can take only so much, and can, and it's a shell. On the inside, once you begin to get pounded further and further and further, mentally, spiritually, your soul begins to get drained and be put further and further and further beneath, till you can't even look at you can't even really look at yourself in the mirror, and then you're out here and you're walking around and maybe everybody else is seeing it, but you're not really wanting to see it first. Then it's tough, you know. And then the other factors get plugged in, like I said, with children, with materialistic things, households.
What are your advice with women who have children in an abusive relationship?
If you really love your children, you need to make a correct situation and decision real quick. If you got to sit back and think it. Is it for my kids? Yes, fine. But what about me? Because if I'm not any good, how can I really help my kids? If I'm destroyed and defeated, this is what my kids are going to see. And for them to see you like that, and they share your scars, but also your scars become their scars. And I think that you need to immediately seek help, immediately get out. As my mentor used to tell me, there's nothing materialistic, there's nothing household furniture that cannot be replaced. Your sanity, your peace of mind, and your soul are really what you need to have. And if you don't have those things, then those are the things that most important is you need to have for your children. But it's tough because you sacrifice with this tradition and human way we've been instilled in our brains is to sacrifice for our kids. Well, you have to differentiate the sacrifice. What is really the sacrifice? All right.
You mentioned earlier about children protecting their mother. Like if the child is older, 17 or 16, what are your thoughts on that?
That's a dangerous area because if that child versus if he or she's been seeing their mother constantly being abused, and they know that when the father is doing it, and that they feel like, you know what, they maybe one day when their mother's gone, say, you know what, I have to be the one to stop this. And they get the gun in the house or the knife or whatever, and they go at the father, they go at the male, and therefore they have sacrificed the rest of their lives before their life has even really gotten started. That can be very tragic.
Yeah, it is tragic because it should not have to be that way. The child should never make a decision for the parent.
Boys love their mamas, and daughters love their mothers and their fathers, but a parental love by a child is a powerful mechanism.
So, what are the signs a woman needs to look for to know that she's in an abusive relationship before it even gets too physical?
I think look for it when you're in your dating stages before you even get married.
But what are those signs?
Oh, those signs. Something simple. You can't wear that. I don't like that. Why do you go there? No, you can't go out with your friends. You can't go be with your lady friends. You can't go. Just different things. Simple things. You can't. A man's supposed to be able to trust. Trust is supposed to work both ways, open and freely. Also, how does a man treat his mother? I mean, and that one kind of gets overplayed because I've seen plenty of guys who treat their mothers like goddesses, and they treat the women like trash. But but now another advantage is, I hate to say it, is if the woman gets to know their man's mother, that could probably help a lot. But But what mother's gonna go against the grain of their child, their son? That's tough. But I think also that simple things. We agreed, restaurant, this or that. Just it's a lot of when you have talks. How do they react to the other sensitivities of the world? Things going on. How do they feel about what's going on with the pandemic? How do they feel about what's going on with women who are achieving things? I don't have a problem with a woman. I casually joke about it all the time, but I'm dead serious. I say, hey, if a woman could be an astronaut, that's great. Be the best one you can be, because I'll be darned they're gonna get me up there. I don't have a problem with that. A woman can do anything a man can do it just as good. I don't have any problem with that, because that's just the way our world has become. And I think also that's what's really men fear the power of women, what they can do. Women are no longer the household whatever. That's been gone.
Yeah, it has been gone years ago. What are your advice on women who claim they are lonely and that's why they stick around? Because some people have that mentality.
I just feel like, you know what?
They think he's going to get better.
Lonely is, if you choose to be lonely, people need to look beyond the physicality of things. People get so trapped into physicality, sexuality, touch, smell. Get into your Bible. Get into some type of hobby. Find something to. If you have children, your children should be first in everything. Um, Find other people who are like you to connect with, and maybe form a forum where y'all talk about these things. Also, social media is positive and negative. You see it going on. You see people maybe who've made it across. Find those people. Ask them how they dealt with it. Birds of a feather flock together. Maybe find out, how do you deal with your loneliness? So this is what I do. Oh, come over here. We've got this kind of thing going. We got a forum. We do this. We get on Zoom call. We talk. We unite. I think the worst thing is when people get so isolated till they begin to put themselves mentally in a closet, and they lock themselves up from the rest of the world. There's only one person who has that key, and that's that abuser. And more importantly, the abuser's already in the closet anyway, because that's why you're in the closet in the first place.
What can a woman, well, I would say in the beginning of a relationship, what could a woman do to put a stop to being abused before it even occurs, before she see the signs, before she notices that she's with an abuser? What can she do for herself to show or project that energy to him?
I think at the very beginning, a woman has to draw the line. Hey, this is what I will deal with. This is what I won't deal with. This is what I know. Do not think that I am stupid. Also, simple things. I'm old fashioned. Open door for a woman, manners, the way a man treats his mother. When I see those sort of things, the way I see he interacts with other women when we're out here, the way he looks at the TV, the way he talks about things, the way he reacts, could be the music they listen to. There's all kind of different things. I mean, I just feel like that you have to be able to try to see anything you see it makes you go, then you want to further expound upon that, or just confront them up front and let them know, hey, I saw this, or simple thing. You're out on a date and your man does something. If he cannot accept constructive criticism, hey, that I'm uncomfortable with that. Can you please, then that ought to be huge for you to see that.
Do you think family is an access to her getting help and getting out of getting out of the abusive relationship?
From a physical standpoint, if you're not in the house where you're experiencing the abuse, yes. But from a mental standpoint, you could still be chained, because a lot of times we're ashamed. We're ashamed of our family. Also, we don't want to drag our uncles and our brothers and fathers into that sort of thing for the women's side, because they're like, no, I don't want you to kill him, But at the end of the day, it's all about getting out of the burning house. And if that's what you have to do, then that's what you need to do. And hopefully your family will be understanding enough to help you and make that sacrifice. And I know if I have a daughter, I'm not going, you know, baby, you might have to sleep on the couch, but guess what? I'd rather have you here till you get this worked out than have to get the call to come identify your body, and then I lose my mind, so to speak. So,
Yeah, it's a chain. I always say that's you connected to the next person, and the next person connected to you. And in a situation like that, it makes it hard to deal with when you know that you're not dealing with it by yourself.
family can be poisonous too, because also
Yes.
family can be like, you're not telling the truth. He can't be doing that to you, because all they see is the exterior of things. They're not in your house, because we're taught to keep everything in house. Being truly an adult and grown is being able to handle your own business, no matter what the business is.
So, what are your opinion about a woman getting out and dating again after she's been abused?
First, you have to get through your healing process, um, and then you have to be willing to admit that you were in that situation yourself. But also, the next person, has to be willing to sit and listen to your testimony, understand what you went through, understand what you will not tolerate. Also, quickly understand maybe that the better you communicate, so that they do things that don't remind you of that simulation or that feeling, because they have to understand you've been through something that's been traumatizing. Um, I think assuming the unassumed can become a dangerous weapon, and if you don't, I think it's just communication. Communication, open up and put it all on the table. Then it's their choice to handle it or to move forward, or to say, you know what, I cannot participate in that setting.
What habits can an abusive man practice to help himself change and not mistreat his wife or his girlfriend?
If he really, 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 really loves his lady, his wife, he's going to admit he has a problem and want to get help immediately. And the help can't come from the inside. The help has to come from actual professional folk. Also, it has to come from uh, being able to quickly turn off all the things that can light those sparks. If it's drinking, if it's something that helps enhance it, get help in all those areas immediately, and be willing to prepare to shut down and sacrifice everything about them at the moment if they really, really love that person.
You said something that got me thinking about triggers. Triggers to me, I think, are something that automatically happen naturally. So, what are your thoughts on someone being able to control a trigger that makes them fly off the handle?
That's tough, because that's probably something that either A, can be identified as maybe being chemically, mechanically, organically, um, could have to do with their own inner uh, self-esteem and frustration, their own simulation of watching defeat, having that been doused in that mindset because of what they saw, what they grew up with, the tradition of it, and that's the only way. And then more importantly, it's just like, to me, drugs. You don't admit you have a problem. I need to go get some help. Can you understand? Now I'm going to do this. It's for you, but they have to do it for themselves. Most importantly, I think that's the number one thing. Because if you're not getting yourself right, how can you be right for your significant?
Yeah, that's true. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
I just think that this is a disease that is we're learning more about now, and people such as yourself are able to get out here and keep the awareness of it, keep the light on it, and know that this, like I said, transcends all sexual, physical, racial, colors, religions. It's worldwide, and man and woman, are going to be the same. They meet, they bond, they cohabitate, they make family. And but for us to be able to process better, handling our emotions and handling our studying the other person's sensitivities and wants and what they need, and knowing that you really have to be able to be open, and then give that person that choice, because if they don't have that choice, then that's truly the situation. And also, don't put it where, since you feel like you love somebody so much, that you will endure. Nobody should have to endure any type of mental, physical abuse. It's not right. That is not what God designed us for. And we have to just really continue to just try to work on this. It's a it's it like I said, it's a disease. It really is. And I think that when people are willing to admit at the beginning that they have something, nobody's perfect, but they have something going on. It also maybe is affecting this, and then they bring that to their inner circle, or to that significant person, and it's not handled right. Then once it starts to fester, once it starts to get like this and get like this, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. When it's something small, it can be, instead of ignoring it, the age old thing is, the first time it's done, the first time it needs to be stopped, or it needs to be acknowledged, it needs to be talked about, needs to be a line drawn and saying, I will not tolerate this, I will not, or so that I'm not going to let you do that anymore. But that's the key word. Once you let becomes another let becomes a bigger let, and it just goes on and on. And once that person knows that they can keep going, and it's trouble. It's downhill.
Yeah, that's true. So I have two more questions. Sorry, but not sorry. I hear that phrase a lot. I never understood it until I myself experienced it. So, what are your thoughts on a person saying, I'm sorry, after they made a mistake, well, after they abused you, and then they turn around and say, oh, I'm so sorry, and then they do it again?
Well, I'm going to add something to that. I think, I hear people all the time saying you're sorry versus saying I apologize. To me, I tell people apologies for something I really don't know. So that's just me. Sorry is for what I really genuinely want to give you. But sorry versus sorry, I think people just play on the word so much. My bad, I'm sorry. That won't happen. Hey, well, first of all, saying the words and doing the things, the acts to immediately patch up that hole, or admit you had that mistake, it's two different things. People just say, it's like, come home, I'm sorry, and you get in the bed and go to sleep, and the next day you think the sorry just is good for then. You can't. No, you have to. I'm a big person of action, and then I think adults particularly should know the difference between, really, if they really know their mate, they're gonna know. They're gonna know, and they're gonna feel it on the inside, in their heart. And if it's not a sorry that's satisfactory to you, then you got some choices. Hey, try again. I'm not believing that one, or move on. Why waste time? Time is the most important thing. I tell people, time is the one thing in life that you can't get back. Whether it's time used, time abused, time misused, time manipulated, it's still time gone. So don't waste time.
Yeah. So we've been talking about women being abused, which that's my target audience, but what are your thoughts on men being abused by dominant women?
I think it's way more out here than people know, because traditionally men are supposed to be the stronger, and when you hear men talk about, men get laughed at. Atypical situation that's been going on for years, although the domestic situation has changed as far as the laws, especially in Texas, where it used to be, you get a phone call, police come out, the situation is the man being abusive toward the woman. But if they come out and the woman goes, well, they're like, well, man, do what? The woman goes, well, I don't want to press. And they're like, well, don't call us out here anymore. You must like that beat. You must whatever. Versus now, if it's a man the other way and they come out here, then they want to snicker and laugh at the man. That probably is more torturous in itself because men, it may not be so much physically, it might be sexually, it might be financially, it might be that they are without a job and the woman is carrying all the. See, that's also another form of abuse when a man's um, um, manhood or is being discounted or he feels like he's less, then that's what starts to build up some of those things. He's sitting at home, he didn't have a job, and the woman's doing it, then that starts setting up for some things, and the self esteem starts creeping in. Hey, that kind of thing.
Well, thank you, Coach Carroll.
Thank you.
I appreciate you answering the questions for us from a man's point of view.
My pleasure.